Hi, this is Matt McIntosh, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can go about just creating a very basic track and getting it into Unreal. So first off, I'm going to start by just making a very basic shape that we can work with for in Unreal. So what I'm going to do is just close that loop. Yep. I'm going to make a little piece of road that can go around this track, and I just need to tidy that up. So what I'll do is go into my edit spline feature, select both these verts, and as you can see you've got these little handles that affect the curvature of that. I want to get rid of that, so I'm just going to turn them both to corner. I'll give a nice straight line. On this piece of road though, I might actually want some of that curvature in there, so with each one of these what I'm going to do is first off I'm just going to convert it to smooth for all of them. So when you get stuff like this where it's a bit warped, you might want to fix that by putting it as a Bezier, and with that it allows you to actually change the overall shape of the thing quite effectively. So do the same with this one down here. Like so. And once I'm happy with that kind of overall shape, what I'll be looking at doing is lofting this shape around this track. So to do that, go into your geometry tab under your create section. In the drop down list, go to compound objects, click on loft and get shape, and we'll click on that, and as you can see I've got a very basic track there. I've got a bit of an issue coming up here, so I'm just going to fix this in a second. But some of the features that you should be aware of with lofting is that it gives you surface parameters, which allows you to apply mapping. Quite a useful feature because it will actually apply the mapping of a road for you. So what I'm going to do is just put a basic texture on that. As you can see at the moment it's stretching that mapping, but if I was to increase the length, would be, I'll type in a figure of something like 150. We can see it is actually mapped the road for me. That's probably a bit too high, so have a play around with the settings of that to find an appropriate value. 100 looks a lot better. So if I just turn off my my wireframe, yep, that looks alright. So what I'm going to do is just fix this section here. But first off, actually, I'm going to put a bit of an elevation into this track. So what I'll do is I'll grab these points here and just move them up. And I'll grab that one there as well. Now we've got quite a steep hill going on with this one, and what it's done is it's done some weird stuff to this section here. Okay, so the way that you go about kind of fixing that is you could potentially look to turn the banking off in your loft. So if you go into skin parameters, there's a little button here called banking. Turn that off. As you can see, kind of flattens everything out again. So have a look at that on your own tracks if you're getting those sorts of errors going on. What I want to do is just sort out this kind of edge here so it's not quite as intense. That should be okay. Let's do this at the top part here, and what I'm going to do is just raise that point there as well, so it's not quite as crazy uphill. Right, so I've just got this last bit to kind of sort out. So first things first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a normalized spline onto this. I click on normalize SPL. What it tries to do is even out the amount of distribution around the track. As you can see, length segments at 20, too small piece, so we need to change that. I'm going to put it at about 150. And as you can see, we've got a lot more kind of geometry going in there, which we don't really want. So what I'm going to do is just lower that down to, well, increase it up even to something like 300. See how that is. Still a bit too much. 500. Okay, that's a bit better. We're getting a more even kind of distribution there. But I'd still actually be tempted to take that further. I'm going to take this to 750. On your own maps, you need to investigate which sort of size would work best for you. So it's still not fixed this point here. So what I'm going to do is go back to the original line, but I want to see the effect that the normalized spline is having. So if you show the end result, it will allow you to then edit those elements. If I start pulling these points around, should be able to fix it. Okay, so that's what it's alright. Just got another one here to kind of pull around. That'll do. Okay, so this is now in a situation where I think I can export it out into Unreal. So the way I'm going to go about doing this is just convert, leave it as a loft even, and just export it into as an FBX. Into Unreal. So I'll just put it in here, test track. Okay, what I want to be doing is keeping the smoothing groups, because obviously I want a nice surface going through there. Most of the other features you're not really going to need at the moment. The reason that we go with an FBX is because you can bring in the animation, you can bring in textures, lights and all that sort of stuff. If you just bring in an OBJ, it just brings in the mesh itself, which can be useful, but if you're wanting to bring any animation or anything like that, use an FBX. Okay, so just click on OK, it'll export it. You'll probably come up with this issue where it's saying that it's a loft, so it needs to convert it to something that's readable by Unreal. Just click on OK and it'll export it for you. Okay, so if we go into Unreal now, what I'm going to do with the engine is just launch 4.6.1. This may take a moment. Okay, so what I now want to do is click on New Project, and I'm going to bring in a standard vehicle. So you can set these things up quite straightforward. It gives you a car, allows you to drive around. Click on Create. And what I want to be looking at doing is bringing in that track that I've just created in 3ds Max into here so I can test the thing. Okay, so if I initially just click on play, you'll see that there's a little car that allows you to drive around the scene. It's skids, it has gears. So this is ideal for what we're wanting to do with those tracks. So if I stop that, what I want to be looking at doing is bringing in a asset. So go to import to game, find the asset that you've just created. So I had test track, Open it up. Just click on import. You can play around with the scales and stuff later on, so click on import. If I double click on this object, what you'll see is that when it comes in, it tries to give it collision for the whole thing, which we don't really want. What we want is for the road that we've created to have appropriate collision so that you can drive on this. At the moment, what would happen is if that car hit it, it would start kind of going over the top of the thing. So what we want to be looking at doing is going to collision options, and just bear with me while I remember where the hell this is now. Yeah, collision. And static mesh settings, simple collision, not that one, sorry, collision complexity. Rather than it being default, if you use it as complex collision, as simple collision test. So this looks at each poly that's created to see whether there is collision for it. We've got a material applied to it, which is part of the FBX that's come in, so we should actually see the material applied on there. If you wanted to swap materials, you get information per material in your LOD. So if you've got like 5 materials, you'll have 5 of these little texture balls, which you can put in whatever material you want by just clicking on your material in Unreal, or your material swatch, and then clicking on this little arrow, and it will assign it to that slot. Okay, so what we're going to do is save that. Then what I'm going to do is actually drag this into the scene so that we can play around with the thing. It's coming at a reasonable size, and it does look to inverted it. So what I'll do is just click on play to see whereabouts this thing is. It's quite big. Okay, and it's just hit it, so it has seen the collision. What I'm going to do with this is just rotate it around 180 so that I can work with it. Obviously, if you were in 3ds Max though, what you'd be looking at doing is making sure that the normals are facing the right direction. There is probably a feature, a quick feature or whatever, to use in Unreal to flip its normals, but for the moment I just want to be able to get onto the thing to test that it works. So if I click on play, and we can see that the car is actually driving on the thing. So what you need to be looking at doing for yours is either putting in some collision walls at the sides here, so that basically the car doesn't do that, or making the road a hell of a lot wider, so that you can go at it with some speed and just make sure that it's a completable track. Okay, thanks for listening.